The sterile white walls of the hospital room seemed to mock me, their starkness amplifying the hollowness in my chest. My breath hitched in ragged gasps, each one a painful reminder of my dwindling life force. Ryan, the man I had foolishly poured my heart and soul into, stood beside Isabella, her hand possessively intertwined with his. The triumphant smirk plastered across his face twisted my gut, a cruel counterpoint to the icy dread seeping into my bones. "It's over, Lily." Ryan's voice dripped with a chilling indifference that shattered the last vestiges of hope within me. "Isabella and I have been together for a while now." Surprise. He punctuated his cruel revelation with a sickeningly sweet chuckle, a sound that would forever be etched into my memory as the soundtrack to my devastation. Isabella, her eyes glinting with malicious satisfaction, added insult to injury. "Oh, and by the way, your money? Gone. Consider it a parting gift." My world crumbled. Every sacrifice I had made for Ryan, every dream we had woven together, every ounce of trust one had placed in him, evaporated in the face of their callous betrayal. A searing pain ripped through me, not just the physical agony of my failing body, but the soul-crushing weight of their treachery. Darkness encroached, its icy tendrils wrapping around me, pulling me under. Then blinding light. A searing headache. And a second chance? I blinked, disoriented, the stark white of the hospital room replaced by the familiar, yet now strangely foreign, walls of my apartment. The calendar on my desk displayed a date from months ago. A time before the lies, the betrayal, the agonizing heartbreak. I was back. Back to the beginning. Reborn. A surge of something fierce and unfamiliar coursed through me. A potent cocktail of anger, disbelief, and a burning desire for retribution. This time things would be different. This time I wouldn't be the naive fool who fell for Ryan's charming facade. And just like that he walked in, a picture of contrived concern plastered on his face. "Lily, darling, are you feeling okay? You look a little pale." His voice, once music to my ears, now grated on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. I forced a smile, a sickly sweet imitation of the genuine affection I had once felt. "Just a bit tired, Ryan." My inner voice, however, was screaming. "Oh honey, you have no idea." My mind raced, sifting through the memories of my past life, piecing together the puzzle of Ryan's deceit. Every lie, every manipulation, every red flag I had so blindly ignored, now blazed before me with crystal clarity. I would dismantle his carefully constructed facade, piece by painstaking piece. A flicker of doubt momentarily clouded my resolve. Could I really change the future? Could I truly escape the pain and heartbreak that had defined my past life? But then a steely resolve hardened my gaze. I had to try. For myself. For the life I deserved. "Ryan," I began, my voice deceptively soft, batting my eyelashes for extra effect. "There's something I need to tell you. I think I'm allergic to BS." His perfectly sculpted eyebrows shot up in surprise. The room, buzzing with the shallow chatter of the city's elite, seemed to hold its breath. He chuckled, a nervous tremor underlying the practiced smoothness. "Lily, darling, what are you talking about?" "Oh, you know," I said, tilting my head innocently. "That strange reaction I get whenever someone's feeding me a line. My skin gets itchy, my eyes start to roll, and I have this overwhelming urge to." I let out a dramatic, exaggerated yawn, effectively cutting him off mid-sentence. The crowd around us tittered nervously. Ryan's smile faltered. He'd clearly expected me to fall for his usual charm offensive, the same one that had worked so flawlessly in my past life. This time, however, I was armed with the ultimate cheat code. The knowledge of his future betrayals. He tried again, this time laying on the charm thicker than Nutella on toast. "Lily, you wound me. You know I'd never lie to you." His hand reached out to caress my cheek, but I smoothly sidestepped, pretending to reach for a passing waiter's tray of champagne flutes. "Oh, these look delicious," I chirped, grabbing 2 glasses and handing one to a random guest. "Cheers to not being a liar." I raised my glass in a mock toast, my eyes fixed on Ryan's increasingly uncomfortable expression. The room erupted in forced laughter, the tension hanging thick in the air like a bad perfume. I spent the rest of the evening deflecting Ryan's attempts at conversation with the skill of a seasoned ninja. Every cheesy pickup line, every faux-concerned inquiry, was met with a perfectly timed witty retort or a strategically placed distraction. I could practically feel his frustration radiating off him in waves. It was delicious. Just when I thought I had successfully navigated the minefield of Ryan's manipulative tactics, she appeared. Isabella. Her entrance was as subtle as a glitter bomb exploding in a library. Dressed in a scarlet gown that screamed for attention, she glided through the crowd, her eyes laser-focused on me. A predatory smile played on her lips, and in that instant, I knew she sensed the shift, the change in me. The naive, trusting Lily she had so easily manipulated was gone. She reached our little circle, her hand snaking around Ryan's arm with a possessive air that sent a shiver down my spine. "Ryan, darling," she purred, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Her eyes, however, never left mine. A silent challenge passed between us, a spark igniting in the charged air. "Isabella," I acknowledged her presence with a cool nod. my voice calm and steady despite the turmoil brewing within me. Her smile widened, revealing a hint of something darker, something dangerous lurking beneath the surface. "Lily," she returned my greeting, her voice laced with a thinly veiled threat. She leaned closer, her breath ghosting against my ear. "You've changed." Her fingers tightened their grip on Ryan's arm. My hand instinctively went to the delicate silver necklace I wore, a gift from my grandmother. I clutched it tightly, a small source of comfort in the face of Isabella's veiled hostility. "So have you," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. My gaze locked on hers, unwavering. A flicker of surprise crossed Isabella's face. She opened her mouth to retort, but I cut her off, my voice suddenly sharp and clear. "Ryan, I need another glass of champagne." I turned my back on Isabella, my heart pounding against my ribs, and walked away, leaving her standing there, a look of pure, unadulterated malice twisting her features. "Don't wait up. Don't wait up." The words hung in the air, sharp and brittle like shattered glass. I didn't look back. I could feel Isabella's eyes boring into my back, twin lasers of pure venom. My hand trembled as I reached for the champagne flute offered by a passing waiter. The bubbly liquid did little to quench the fire that was beginning to consume me. The words were like daggers twisting in my gut. I felt the familiar sting of isolation, the suffocating feeling of being trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Had I really come back only to relive the same torment? My carefully constructed composure began to crumble. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to make them all understand that they were wrong, so incredibly wrong. I found Sophia in the library, hunched over a mountain of textbooks. Her brow was furrowed in concentration, a lock of bright red hair escaping from her messy bun. Seeing me, her face softened, and she pushed aside her books, her eyes full of concern. "Lily, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." The dam of my composure finally broke. I poured out the whole story, the venomous whispers, the knowing glances, the insidious lies that were spreading like wildfire. Tears welled in my eyes as I recounted the humiliation, the feeling of being unjustly accused, the chilling echo of my past life. Sophia listened patiently, her hand resting on mine, a silent offering of support. When I finished, she squeezed my hand tightly. "Those bitches," she seethed, her eyes flashing with righteous anger. "Don't let them get to you, Lily. You know it's not true." Her words were a balm to my raw nerves. Sophia's unwavering belief in me was a lifeline in the swirling vortex of doubt. It was then that I remembered the voice, the mysterious guide that had appeared in my mind after my rebirth. "Focus," it whispered. "Find the proof." And so I did. I started digging, delving into Isabella's past, peeling back the layers of her carefully constructed facade. It wasn't long before I unearthed a pattern of similar incidents. Other girls just like me had been targeted, their reputations tarnished by Isabella's venomous whispers. I found Sarah, a shy, introverted girl who had been ostracized the previous year. She was hesitant at first, still bearing the scars of Isabella's cruelty. But when I shared my own story, her eyes filled with a flicker of recognition, a spark of shared pain. Together we pieced together a compelling narrative, a damning indictment of Isabella's manipulative tactics. The opportunity presented itself at the school's annual charity gala. Isabella, resplendent in a shimmering gown, was holding court, surrounded by a gaggle of admirers. She caught my eye across the crowded ballroom and smirked, a predatory gleam in her eyes. It was time. Taking a deep breath, I walked towards her, my heart pounding in my chest. The room fell silent as I approached, sensing the impending drama. With Sarah standing beside me, I addressed the crowd, my voice clear and steady. "Isabella," I began, my words echoing through the silent ballroom. "I believe you have something that belongs to me. My reputation." I laid out the evidence piece by piece, the whispers, the lies, the carefully orchestrated campaign of character assassination. The room buzzed with shock and disbelief as the truth unraveled before them. Isabella's face, once flushed with triumph, now drained of color, her carefully crafted mask crumbling into 1,000 pieces. She opened her mouth to speak, a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, but the words died in her throat. You're lying," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. I simply smiled, a cold, hard smile that mirrored the one she had given me so many times before. I turned to Sarah, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze. "Not this time," I said, my voice laced with steel. The silence stretched, thick and heavy with unspoken accusations. Then a voice cut through the tension. "Isabella." I turned. Ryan was standing at the edge of the crowd, his eyes fixed on Isabella, a flicker of, what was it? Concern? Disbelief? The game was far from over. The champagne flute felt cold against my skin, a stark contrast to the burning anger simmering within me. Ryan hurried after me, his face a mask of feigned concern. "Lily, what was that about? Are you all right?" "Perfect," I purred, taking a slow sip of the bubbly liquid. The memory of Isabella's shocked face was almost as intoxicating as the champagne itself. Almost. This time I wouldn't fall for their charade. This time I knew their game. "You seem different," Ryan commented, his eyes narrowed, scrutinizing my face. A flicker of unease crossed his features, so fleeting I almost missed it. Good. Let him squirm. A sudden chime echoed in my mind, clear as a bell. Asterisk, don't engage directly. Plant the seeds of doubt. Let them unravel themselves. Asterisk, the mysterious voice, my guide, my unexpected ally in this twisted game of fate. I offered Ryan a dazzling smile, the kind that had once blinded me to his true nature. Perhaps. Or perhaps I'm just tired of playing the fool. Before he could respond, Sophia materialized beside me, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Lily, there you are. Come on, the dance floor is calling our names. She looped her arm through mine, effectively breaking the tense tableau. As Sophia dragged me away, I glanced back at Ryan. Isabella had joined him, whispering urgently in his ear. He looked back at me, his expression a mixture of confusion and suspicion. Excellent. The seed was planted. Sophia, oblivious to the underlying currents, chattered excitedly about a new gallery opening. I feigned interest, my mind racing. I needed a plan, a concrete strategy to dismantle their carefully constructed lies. The mysterious voice chimed again. Asterisk, the evidence you seek is closer than you think. Look to the source of their power. Their power? Ryan's influence stemmed from his family's wealth, and Isabella's from her connections. Connections she used to manipulate and control. Suddenly it clicked. Her phone. Isabella was meticulously organized, documenting every detail of her schemes, certain of her invincibility. Sophia, I interrupted her mid-sentence. I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. Okay. Meet me back by the bar. She called after me, already swaying to the music. I wove through the crowd, my eyes scanning the room for Isabella. I spotted her near the balcony, phone in hand, her fingers flying across the screen. This was my chance. The throbbing bass of the club music faded as I slipped into the quiet coolness of the restroom. My reflection stared back at me, a ghost of the naive girl I once was. Not anymore. This time I was in control. I splashed cold water on my face, the shock a welcome reminder of the present. Game face on. Back in the pulsating heart of the club, Sophia was lost in a world of flashing lights and rhythmic beats. Girl, where have you been? She yelled over the music, grabbing my arm and pulling me closer. The DJ is about to drop the hottest track. Gotta go, Soph, I shouted back, already scanning the room again. Isabella was still on the balcony, her back to me, but the glow of her phone illuminated her triumphant smirk. Perfect. I needed some air, some space to strategize. I excused myself, muttering something about needing another drink, and headed towards the exit. The cool night air was a welcome change from the stifling atmosphere of the club. I pulled out my phone, a mischievous glint in my eye. Time for Plan B. The next day, I decided a dose of culture was exactly what I needed to cleanse my palate from the drama of the club scene. The visions of the future art exhibition was all the rage, and I was eager to lose myself in the world of abstract expressionism. The gallery was a hushed sanctuary, the only sounds the soft murmur of voices and the click of heels on the polished floor. I was captivated by a piece depicting a swirling vortex of colors, lost in contemplation of its hidden meaning. Suddenly a warm, solid presence bumped into me. Oh, I am so sorry. A deep voice apologized. I turned, ready to brush off the interruption, but the words died in my throat. Standing before me was a man who seemed to have stepped straight out of a dream. His eyes, the color of warm honey, held a gentle amusement, and his smile was disarming. It was him. Oliver. No worries, I managed, my voice a breathy whisper. There was a strange flutter in my chest, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a lifetime. I'm Oliver. He extended a hand. Lily, I replied, my fingers tingling at his touch. We fell into conversation as easily as if we'd known each other for years. He spoke passionately about the art, his insights both brilliant and refreshing. His gaze lingered on me, a warmth spreading through my being that had nothing to do with the gallery's central heating. There was a connection, an undeniable spark. This was different. This was real. Just as I was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, fate was finally on my side, a familiar wave of nausea washed over me. Speak of the devil. Ryan and Isabella sauntered into the gallery, their eyes locking onto me with a venomous glare. Ryan, his face contorted in a sneer, strode towards us. Well, he drawled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Look who we have here. Lily, still clinging to anyone who'll give you the time of day? He directed his next comment at Oliver, his voice laced with phony concern. Be careful, mate. This one's trouble. My heart sank. Would Oliver believe him? Would history repeat itself? But Oliver simply raised an eyebrow, his gaze unwavering. I think I'm capable of forming my own judgments, he stated calmly, his voice laced with steel. And right now my judgment tells me you're the one who's out of line. He turned to me, his eyes filled with warmth. Shall we move on, Lily? There are other pieces I'd like to discuss with you. As we walked away, I could feel Isabella's eyes burning into my back. I knew this wasn't over. But for the first time since my rebirth, I felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could rewrite my story. Turning to Oliver, I smiled. There's something I need to tell you. Okay, here's the continuation of Love on the Horizon, focusing on a strong, empowered Lily and a cliffhanger ending. There's something I need to tell you. I began, but the words caught in my throat. How could I explain my past, my rebirth, without sounding completely insane? Oliver's attentive gaze made me hesitate. What is it, Lily? He asked, his voice soft, encouraging. Suddenly, a sharp, familiar pang resonated in my head, followed by the cryptic whisper of my inner voice. Asterisk the restroom. The proof you seek. My eyes widened in realization. Isabella. The restroom. Of course. A plan began to form in my mind. Just give me a moment, I murmured, a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. I'll be right back. Before Oliver could respond, I turned and practically sprinted back towards the restrooms. The same cool, quiet atmosphere greeted me, a stark contrast to the gallery's hushed elegance. I scanned the area. Nothing seemed out of place. Then I remembered Isabella's phone. She had been texting furiously on the balcony of the club. If she was planning something against me, there was a chance she might have inadvertently left a digital trail. And if she had used the restroom, my eyes landed on the small trash bin tucked away in the corner. My heart pounded as I reached inside. Discarded tissues, crumpled hand towels, and then my fingers brushed against something hard and rectangular. A phone case. Isabella's phone case, adorned with a distinctive peacock feather charm. My breath caught. Where was the phone? I frantically searched the bin, my fingers digging through the refuse. Empty. My gaze darted around the room, searching for any sign of it. Had someone else found it? Had Isabella come back for it? Just as panic began to set in, I spotted it. Tucked beneath the sink, partially obscured by a cleaning cart, was a sleek rose gold smartphone. Isabella's phone. My hands trembled as I picked it up. It was locked, of course. But I remembered seeing Isabella enter her passcode at the club. 4 digits. A date. Ryan's birthday. With bated breath, I entered the numbers. The screen unlocked. A wave of relief washed over me. Now all I needed to do was find the evidence. But where to start? Text messages? Emails? Photos? Just as I was about to delve into her messages, I heard the restroom door open. My head whipped around. It was Isabella, her eyes blazing with fury. You, she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. Give me back my phone. You, Isabella hissed, her voice dripping with venom. Give me back my phone. Busted. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. Isabella lunged, her manicured claws reaching for the phone clutched in my hand. Thinking fast, I dodged, pivoting on my heel and sprinting out of the restroom. I could hear her high heels clicking furiously behind me, a soundtrack to my impending doom. I knew this was just the beginning. Ryan and Isabella, those two vipers, wouldn't let this go. They'd slither their way around any obstacle to get their revenge. And they did. A few days later, a crisp white envelope landed on my desk, an anonymous message inside. My blood ran cold as I read the accusation. Commercial fraud. My stomach churned. Fraud? This was serious. This was a setup. This was war. A wave of fear washed over me. The kind that makes your knees wobble and your palms sweat. This wasn't some petty high school drama. This could ruin me. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. I needed backup and fast. My mind immediately went to Oliver. He was my rock, my voice of reason in this chaotic storm. He listened patiently, his brow furrowed with concern as I recounted the events, the anonymous letter trembling in my hand. Don't worry, Lily, he said, his voice calm and reassuring. We'll face this together. His words were a balm to my frayed nerves. His unwavering support was a lifeline. But the thought of dragging him into this mess gnawed at my conscience. This wasn't his fight. He didn't deserve this. Ryan and Isabella, fueled by a toxic cocktail of jealousy and spite, were pulling strings from the shadows. They'd manufactured witnesses, fabricated evidence, weaving a web of lies so intricate it felt impossible to escape. I paced my apartment, restless and anxious. I was trapped between the urge to fight back and the overwhelming sense of dread that this was a battle I couldn't win. My inner monologue was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. Should I lay low? Should I confront them head-on? Was I overreacting? No. I knew what they were capable of. I wouldn't be a victim. Not again. Oliver, ever the resourceful one, suggested we seek help from his father, Mr. Brown. A titan of industry, Mr. Brown had the resources and connections to unravel this conspiracy. He listened intently as we laid out the situation, his sharp eyes missing nothing. He exuded an aura of quiet power, the kind that comes from years of navigating the cutthroat world of business. Leave this to me, he stated, his voice firm and decisive. He immediately set his team to work, his investigators digging into the backgrounds of the so-called witnesses. It wasn't long before cracks began to appear in Ryan and Isabella's carefully constructed facade. Discrepancies in their testimonies, inconsistencies in their alibis. The truth was starting to surface. Mr. Brown, with a knowing glint in his eye, turned to us, a file in his hand. He tapped the folder. I think we have something, he began, just as the phone rang, shattering the tense silence. Oliver picked up. His face paled. What? Are you sure? We'll be right there. He hung up, his hand shaking. He looked at me, his eyes wide with alarm. It's Sophia. Sophia's been arrested. Oliver choked out, the words heavy with disbelief. My blood ran cold. Arrested? What for? Mr. Brown, his face grim, barked orders into his phone, deploying his legal team. This was escalating faster than any of us could have predicted. Ryan and Isabella, those twisted masterminds, had somehow managed to frame Sophia. The knot in my stomach tightened. This wasn't just about me anymore. They were hurting the people I cared about. We have to fight back, I declared, my voice shaking but resolute. Mr. Brown nodded, his eyes glinting with steely determination. Indeed, time to play their game. And with that, he unleashed his full arsenal. He called in favors, pulled strings, and within hours, the truth about the fabricated evidence and coerced witnesses began to unravel. The media, initially swayed by Ryan and Isabella's carefully crafted narrative, started to question their version of events. Cracks appeared in their perfect facade, widening with every passing hour. The tide was turning. The public, initially quick to condemn, now directed their anger at the real perpetrators. Social media exploded with hashtags like #JusticeForLily and #ExposeRyan and Isabella. A surge of righteous fury coursed through me. Boom. Take that, you manipulative snakes. It felt exhilarating, seeing their web of lies crumble before my eyes. Yes, Queen. This was the turning point. The moment I'd been waiting for. Mr. Brown's team, working tirelessly, uncovered a mountain of evidence that implicated Ryan and Isabella in not only the fraud scheme but also a series of other shady dealings. Their reputation, once pristine, was now irrevocably tarnished. They were cornered, desperate, and like wounded animals they lashed out. Just when I thought it was over, a new wave of online attacks emerged, this time targeting me personally. My phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, articles, blog posts, and social media comments, all painting me as a manipulative gold digger, claiming I was having an affair with Mr. Brown to further my own career. My stomach lurched. This was a new low even for them. They were trying to destroy not just my reputation but my relationship with Oliver, twisting my genuine connection with his father into something sordid and perverse. I stared at the screen, the venomous words blurring into a meaningless stream of hate. The initial euphoria of victory evaporated, replaced by a chilling wave of dread. Oliver put his hand on my shoulder, his touch a small comfort in the storm. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. They won't stop, I whispered, my voice barely audible. They'll never stop. I looked up at Oliver, my heart sinking as I saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. The phone rang again, and this time it was Mr. Brown. His voice, usually calm and collected, was laced with a new edge of urgency. Lily, he said, we have a problem. He paused, the silence thick with unspoken tension. A big problem. Then he uttered two words that made my blood run cold. Bankruptcy, Mr. Brown had said. The word a lead weight sinking in my stomach. Ryan is claiming you embezzled funds from his company while you were together. My carefully constructed world, the one I'd painstakingly rebuilt after my rebirth, threatened to crumble around me. They were escalating, these vultures circling my resurrected life. Sophia barged in, a whirlwind of vibrant energy and righteous fury. Lily, have you seen this crap online? She shoved her phone in my face, the screen ablaze with fabricated stories and twisted truths. My breath hitched. The comments section was a cesspool of vitriol, each word a tiny dagger twisting into my heart. They're saying you're a gold digger, a manipulative liar. It's insane. Sophia paced, her usual bubbly demeanor replaced with a protective fierceness. Seeing me curled up on the couch, defeated, she stopped and knelt beside me. Hey, she said softly, her voice laced with genuine concern. Don't let them win. You're stronger than this. Her words, simple yet powerful, resonated within me. Sophia, my rock, my constant. She was right. I wouldn't let them break me. Not this time. Oliver arrived soon after, his presence a calming balm on my frayed nerves. He didn't pry, didn't demand explanations. He simply sat beside me, his hand finding mine, a silent offering of support. The warmth of his touch, the gentle strength in his grip. It was a lifeline in the swirling tempest of accusations. We ordered takeout, some ridiculous comfort food that I barely tasted, but the normalcy of the act, the shared quiet moments steadied me. Later, as we cleaned up, our hands brushed, lingering for a heartbeat longer than necessary. A blush crept up my neck, a surprising flicker of warmth in the chilling reality of my situation. He caught my eye, a small smile playing on his lips. We'll get through this, he murmured, and I knew with a certainty that defied logic that he was right. That night sleep eluded me. Sophia's words echoed in my mind. Don't let them win. I couldn't just sit here and wait for the storm to consume me. I needed to fight back. I needed proof. Ryan and Isabella. Their past had to hold the key. The next morning, Armed with a fierce resolve and an unhealthy amount of caffeine, I started digging. I scoured old news articles, social media posts, anything I could find. It was a tedious, frustrating process, but the thought of Ryan's smug face fueled my determination. Days turned into nights. The investigation became my obsession. I uncovered whispers of shady deals, rumors of backstabbing and betrayal. Then I found it. A small, almost insignificant blog post detailing a business deal gone wrong. A deal involving both Ryan and Isabella. It was a breadcrumb. A tiny clue that led me down a rabbit hole of shell corporations and offshore accounts. I was getting closer. Then I felt it. That prickling sensation on the back of my neck, the feeling of being watched. I glanced out the window. A nondescript black car parked across the street. Had it been there before? I couldn't be sure. Paranoia gnawed at me. I decided to test my suspicions. I grabbed my coat and purse, heading out into the bustling city streets, weaving through crowds, taking sudden turns. The black car remained, a shadow clinging to my heels. I was being followed. My heart hammered against my ribs. I quickened my pace, my senses heightened, the adrenaline pumping through my veins. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was a hunt. I ducked into a narrow alleyway, the stench of stale garbage filling my nostrils. The sound of footsteps echoed behind me, getting closer. I pressed myself against the damp brick wall, holding my breath. A figure emerged from the alley entrance, silhouetted against the bright streetlights. He was tall, imposing, and he held something in his hand. Something that glinted menacingly in the dim light. Well, a gruff voice sneered. Look what we have here. Okay, here's the continuation of Beneath the Tempest, focusing on action and furthering the romantic subplot. Well, the gruff voice sneered. Look what we have here. The figure stepped closer, and the glint in his hand resolved itself into a wicked-looking knife. Panic clawed at my throat, but I forced myself to stay still, to think. My mind raced, desperately searching for a solution. Suddenly, that familiar whisper echoed in my head. The fire escape. I glanced up. Above me, a rusty fire escape zigzagged up the side of the building. Without hesitation, I kicked off the wall, launching myself towards the lowest rung. My fingers scraped against the metal, barely catching hold. I pulled myself up just as the man lunged, his knife slicing through the air where I'd been standing moments before. Adrenaline surged through me, giving me strength I didn't know I possessed. I climbed hand over hand, the rusty metal biting into my palms. Below, the man cursed, his heavy footsteps pounding on the metal stairs as he pursued me. I reached the roof, gasping for breath, the city lights blurring through the haze of exertion and fear. He was right behind me. Suddenly, a strong hand gripped my arm, pulling me back. I stumbled, landing against a solid chest. Oliver. Relief washed over me, so potent it almost brought me to my knees. He didn't say a word, simply held me close, his body a shield between me and the danger. The man emerged onto the rooftop, his face contorted in rage. He hesitated, seeing Oliver. He was bigger, stronger. This doesn't concern you, the man snarled. Oliver's voice was ice cold. She's with me. Leave. The man sized Oliver up, then spat on the ground. This isn't over, he muttered before disappearing back down the fire escape. Oliver turned to me, his eyes filled with concern. Are you all right? Are you hurt? He gently touched my cheek, his thumb brushing away a stray tear I hadn't realized I'd shed. I nodded, my voice choked with emotion. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there. He pulled me closer, his embrace warm and reassuring. I'll always be there, Lily, he whispered, his lips brushing against my forehead. In that moment, surrounded by the city lights and the lingering fear, I felt a surge of something more than gratitude. It was a flicker of hope, a spark of something more. The tempest still raged, but in his arms I felt safe. I felt protected. And for the first time since my rebirth, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could find happiness again. The blog post, the shadowy figure, the close call, it all pointed to one thing. Ryan wasn't just trying to ruin me financially. He was trying to silence me, permanently. And that realization steeled my resolve. I wouldn't be silenced. I would fight back, harder than ever before. I had Oliver, I had Sophia, and I had the truth on my side. And that, I knew, was a force to be reckoned with. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat echoing the fear that clawed at my throat. Sophia. My vibrant, bubbly Sophia, caught in the crossfire of my past. The thought of her in danger because of me was unbearable. We have to get to her, I said, my voice tight with anxiety. The evidence can wait, Sophia can't. Oliver's hand, warm and reassuring, covered mine. I know, he said, his eyes, usually soft, now blazing with steely determination. I already have a team working on her location. We'll get her back. The way he said it, so calm and collected, a wave of something akin to peace washed over me. This was Oliver. Mr. Fix it. Mr. Get it done. He wasn't just a comforting presence, he was a force of nature. And in that moment I knew I could trust him with my life, with Sophia's life. Within the hour, we were speeding towards a dilapidated factory on the outskirts of the city, a place that whispered tales of forgotten industry and whispered promises of danger. The air hung heavy, thick with the metallic tang of rust and decay. The setting sun cast long, skeletal shadows that danced across the crumbling brick walls, transforming the factory into a macabre stage for the final act of this drama. Inside, the scene that unfolded sent a shiver down my spine. Sophia was tied to a chair, her normally bright eyes wide with terror. And there they were, the architects of this nightmare. Ryan and Isabella, basking in their perceived victory, their faces contorted in smug satisfaction. Well, 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 Ryan drawled, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Look who finally decided to show up. You always were so predictable, Lily. Naive. My old self, the one who crumbled under his condescending gaze, would have shrunk back, apologized, begged for mercy. But that Lily was gone, incinerated in the fires of betrayal. This Lily, the one forged in the crucible of pain and empowered by the knowledge of the future, stood tall. You think you've won, Ryan? I retorted, my voice icy. You think tying up my best friend and hiding in this dump gives you some kind of leverage? Think again. Your game is over. Ryan's smirk faltered, a flicker of unease crossing his face. He hadn't expected this. He expected tears, pleading, the same predictable script he'd written for me before. He hadn't accounted for the rewrite. Isabella, ever the viper, hissed. You think you're so clever, Lily, but you're just delaying the inevitable. She took a menacing step towards Sophia, a cruel glint in her eyes. Before I could react, Oliver moved, a blur of controlled fury. He intercepted Isabella, twisting her arm behind her back with a sickening crack. A strangled cry escaped her lips as she crumpled to the ground. Ryan, momentarily stunned, lunged at Oliver, his face a mask of rage. The two men grappled, a whirlwind of fists and grunts. It was brutal, raw, and terrifyingly real. The air crackled with the electricity of their conflict. The metallic tang of blood filled the air. This was it. The climax. The clash of fates. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. My fingers flew across the screen, sending the final damning email to my lawyer. The evidence. The photos. The recordings. Everything. It was all out there now. I looked up just in time to see Ryan stumble back, his eyes widening in disbelief. He looked from me to Oliver, his face paling. Something had shifted. The power dynamic had irrevocably changed. He knew in that instant that he'd lost. You, he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. You wouldn't. Oh, but I would, I said, my voice dripping with the same venomous sweetness he'd used on me so many times. I held up my phone, displaying the email confirmation. Consider it a parting gift, Ryan. Enjoy your stay at the Graybar Hotel. His face crumpled. The smug arrogance was gone, replaced by a raw primal fear. Isabella, still nursing her injured arm, let out a shriek that grated on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. The jig was up. They were cornered rats and they knew it. But cornered rats are dangerous. And these two were about to prove it. Ryan, fueled by desperation, made a mad dash for the exit. Oliver, quick as a whip, blocked his path, tackling him to the ground. They wrestled, a tangle of limbs and guttural curses, sending dust motes swirling in the air. It was like watching a bad action movie, except this was real, this was my life. And the stakes were higher than any box office smash. Isabella, seeing her partner losing, let out a scream and grabbed a rusty pipe from the floor. My blood ran cold. She swung it, aiming for Oliver's head. Time seemed to slow down. My heart hammered in my chest. No. I reacted purely on instinct. I threw myself forward, shielding Oliver with my body. The pipe connected with my shoulder. A searing pain exploding through me. I cried out, a sharp, involuntary gasp. Everything went blurry, but even through the haze of pain I heard it. The sirens. The cavalry had arrived. The factory doors burst open, flooding the dim space with blinding light. Uniformed officers swarmed in, their movements swift and precise. Ryan and Isabella were apprehended, their struggles futile against the overwhelming force. It was over. Finally. Sophia was freed, her trembling hands reaching for mine. We clung to each other, tears streaming down our faces. Relief, pure and unadulterated, washed over me. We were safe. Oliver knelt beside me, his eyes filled with concern. Lily, are you all right? He asked, his voice laced with worry. I managed a weak smile. I will be, I said, wincing as a wave of pain shot through my shoulder. He gently touched my face, his thumb brushing away a stray tear. You're incredible, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. And in that moment, surrounded by the chaos and the aftermath, I felt it. A sense of peace. A sense of closure. I had won. I had escaped the toxic grip of my past and forged a new future. I had found my happy ending. Or so I thought. As the officers led Ryan and Isabella away, their faces contorted in a mixture of rage and defeat, Ryan's eyes locked onto mine. And in that fleeting moment, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. Not fear. Not anger. But something far more sinister. A cold, calculating glint. almost a promise. And then he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken threats. This isn't over, Lily. The slam of the police car doors echoed in the sudden quiet, leaving a hollow space where the cacophony of accusations and Ryan's desperate pleas had been. He was gone. Gone. But the icy grip of his parting words still clutched at my throat. This isn't over, Lily. Ugh, talk about a major buzzkill. I'd just taken down a toxic ex and his equally venomous sidekick. I deserved a celebratory margarita, not this lingering dread. Oliver's hand, warm and solid in mine, was the only anchor tethering me to reality. He's gone, Lily. It's over. His voice was soft, reassuring, but even he couldn't completely dispel the chilling premonition that clung to me like a damp shroud. We needed a distraction, something to focus on, something bright. Let's plan our wedding, I blurted out, the words tumbling from my lips before I could overthink them. Oliver's face lit up, a genuine heart-stopping smile chasing away the shadows. Really? Really, I confirmed, squeezing his hand. Operation Wedding Extravaganza was officially a go. Sophia, bless her cotton socks, threw herself into wedding planning with the zeal of a Pinterest addict. She had mood boards, spreadsheets, and enough floral arrangement ideas to fill a botanical garden. We tasted cake samples until our teeth ached, debated the merits of doves versus butterflies. Doves, definitely doves. Less chance of them landing in the buttercream. And I even let her talk me into trying on a dress that resembled a giant meringue. It was an experience. But beneath the surface of all the wedding-induced excitement, a current of unease continued to flow. My nights were plagued by nightmares. Ryan's face, twisted in a mask of vengeful fury, haunted my sleep. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, the phantom weight of his threat pressing down on me. I was living my dream life, the happy ending I'd fought so hard for. But a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that it was all too good to be true. Mr. Brown, ever the perceptive patriarch, noticed my anxiety. Lily, my dear, he'd said, his voice laced with concern. You look as though you've seen a ghost. I confessed my fears, the irrational yet persistent dread that Ryan would somehow find a way to exact his revenge. He listened patiently and then with a twinkle in his eye declared, We'll just have to throw a party so grand, so spectacular, that it will banish all those shadows. And so an engagement party of epic proportions was planned. The Brown estate was transformed into a fairy tale setting. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees, champagne flowed like water, and the air buzzed with the chatter of influential guests. It was everything a girl could dream of. And yet, a sense of foreboding lingered. As the night wore on, a figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in black, their face obscured by the darkness of their hood. They moved with an unnerving grace, a silent predator weaving through the unsuspecting crowd. A ripple of unease spread through the room, the joyous atmosphere momentarily disrupted by this enigmatic presence. The figure stopped before me, their presence radiating an aura of danger. They extended a gloved hand, revealing a single sealed envelope. Without a word, they vanished back into the crowd, leaving me with a chilling premonition. My hands trembled as I broke the seal, unfolding the crisp paper inside. The words swam before my eyes, each one a venomous strike. Ryan, it seemed, had made friends in low places, powerful, dangerous friends, and they were sending a message. A promise of retribution. A chilling echo of his parting words. I showed the letter to Oliver, the blood draining from my face. His jaw tightened, his eyes hardening with a steely resolve. We'll face this together, Lily. No one will touch you. He took my hand, his grip firm and reassuring. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were standing on the precipice of something dark and dangerous. Oliver. I started, my voice barely a whisper. There's something about this, something familiar? Oliver finished, his brow furrowed in thought. He pulled me closer, his arm a protective shield around my waist. Like you've seen this before? A shiver ran down my spine. He was right. This chilling sense of déjà vu, the creeping dread, the veiled threats. It was all too reminiscent of my past life. The life where Ryan's obsession had spiraled into something dark and destructive, ultimately leading to my demise. Had I escaped one trap only to fall into another, more insidious one? I don't know. I stammered, my mind reeling. The happy ending I'd envisioned, the peaceful future I'd craved, seemed to be slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. Suddenly, the familiar voice echoed in my mind, calm and clear amidst the storm brewing within me. Focus, Lily. What did you overlook before? Overlook? I racked my brain, searching for the missing piece, the crucial detail I'd missed. Ryan's connections, his parting words, the chilling glint in his eyes. Then it hit me. It wasn't just a threat. It was a calculated move. He wasn't targeting me directly. He was going after what I valued most. Oliver. His family. Their business. Oliver, I said urgently, grabbing his arm. It's not me he's after. It's your family. He's going to try and ruin your father's company. Oliver's eyes widened in realization. The letter, it mentioned something about leveraged debts and hostile takeovers. He paled, the implications sinking in. Ryan wasn't just a scorned ex-lover. He was a viper, poised to strike at the heart of the Brown Empire. "We have to warn your father," I urged, pulling him towards the sprawling ballroom where Mr. Brown was holding court. We had to act fast, before Ryan could put his sinister plan into motion. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this time the stakes were higher than ever before. This time it wasn't just my life on the line. It was everything.